Welcome back, everyone. I'm Nick Coniglio.
And I'm Marnie Stockman. This is the Lead It Like Lasso podcast, a Ted Lasso rewatch podcast. We're the authors of Lead It Like Lasso, a leadership book for life, your life.
And today we're wrapping up our analysis of Season 3's leadership lessons with the season finale, So Long, Farewell.
So long,
If you've
farewell.
missed any of the other episodes, head to leaditlikelasso.com to check them out. Be sure to sign up for our weekly Curiosity newsletter so you can keep getting Lasso leadership lessons after the final episode.
So we are super excited to bring back our friend and one of the real life Ted Lassos we've been lucky enough to meet to the show. So for those that haven't been playing along at home, Lee's life very much, I would say, predicted, not paralleled, because it happened before the writers released Ted Lasso. But for season 1, 2, and 3, right? Your life paralleled along the way. And then wild enough, Lee accepted the position as head coach of the, I think I have it right, women's national team for Puerto Rico for ice hockey. And they won the IIHF gold medal prior. So he accepted it prior to season 4 being announced. So the parallels go on.
Absolutely
welcome
amazing.
Back to the party, Lee.
Yeah, listen, it's great to be here. I'll start with this. You both know I'm a very seasoned podcast host. I have my own podcast. This is one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. Believe it or not, I don't listen to my own podcast. So
yes, we hear you on that.
right. But no, I love what you do. And Marnie, I'll say it too. And Nick, still to this day, blown away by the parallels between this show and my life. To the point, just to give the audience a little context, when we were watching the show, like my family and I, family would pause it and say, well, what would you do here? And I would say what I would do. And the show would 95% of the time do that. And then, as you said, we were joking before the show, I took this women's coaching job before they announced that the show was going there. And it freaked me out. It's the coolest thing in the world and the weirdest thing in the world. I don't know if I can pull up a mustache, but I do pull off the beard.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's absolutely amazing, and oh my gosh, follow Lee, and you hear these stories. It truly is. You would not believe it if somebody just told you this. Just how much of the parallel that Lee's life actually follows along with the show, or vice versa. I should probably say so.
Yeah, well, and I want to say real quick too, because I want this to be an aura for the whole episode for all the listeners out there. And we just talked about this, gang, about how what I do right as a team builder in coaching, amongst the other things that I do. The stuff that you see in this show with the team building is a very real thing. And I always love to tell people that. And I want you to listen to the episode knowing that, because, again, a lot of people think that show's Disney-fied. And again, there are aspects of that. We'll talk about some of them today. But the coming together for a common goal, the brotherhood, the sisterhood, the family atmosphere within a team environment, any team, doesn't have to be football, soccer, hockey, it could be work, is a very real thing and a very real power. Right. And I want your audience to believe in that, pun intended, I guess.
Pun intended,
right? I didn't even mean to think of that, but it's so real, and it can be created and cultivated. And I if you leave with anything today, please know that. But I'll let you guys dive into it, because there's some fun stuff in the final episode. I'm very honored to be here, by the way, for the final episode. Well, not final episode of the season, right? We can say that.
We thought it was the final episode.
We thought we certainly did.
We should probably point that out, because one of the things you said is this is the first time you've rewatched it knowing that there is another season coming, to which I said, yes, I cried less in this episode knowing it wasn't the end. So I think that is important to point out, right?
Yeah. It's a different lens when you know it's coming back. And look, we'll find out. I don't know if that's good or bad. Like, I know everyone's excited the show's coming back. I'm a big believer that shows can have a start and an ending and don't have to come back. I feel the same way about movies. Not everything needs a sequel.
Yeah, a sequel, yeah.
Now, I am excited. Don't get me wrong, right?
Yeah.
I trust Sudeikis. I trust the writers that they're going to go a pretty cool place with this.
Yeah.
But I was from season 1, and for those of you who don't know, I lived in England for 3 years. Like, the parallels will come out here. I lived in England for 3 years as an American coach and a team builder, right? And in British television, they call them series, not seasons. They start and end, and they're typically 3 seasons, and they don't come back. Everybody knows Doctor Who. That's the only one that I know that keeps coming back over and over again. So I was content with this being over. So we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah,
So let's start there. We're reminded. I always remember a childhood memory is when MASH, the season finale of MASH, ended,
right.
or Cheers, or Seinfeld. What did you think of this? I mean, if not thinking about that, there's a future season 4, but what did you think about this as just in general? How did it rate in terms of a series finale when you first saw it, and up until the point we knew a season 4 was coming along?
Yeah, love that question. First off, Quantum Leap was the one for me growing up. That's a deep cut. That one cut me deep, and it's a deep cut the way that show ended. But here's the thing with this last episode. I think it's very important for people to realize, and I've worked in television too, so there's an understanding here. It is so hard to end a show, right? And you have to remember when they did this episode, this is the end of the show. They weren't planning for the future. So landing that plane is really hard, and most shows fail miserably at this, right?
Yep.
All you listening, like, you loved or hated The Sopranos, and I mean, you can go through all of them. Nick, you said a few. I think as a final episode, this did pretty good. All right. I think it's important to realize that this entire episode is an epilogue, right? The penultimate episode really was the last kind of episode, if you know what I mean. That solved most of the issues. Yep. This is an epilogue, and if you start watching this episode again, knowing it's an epilogue, I think it's actually far more enjoyable. This is what happens to 95% of the characters when they have finished their character arc, right? Yeah. There's actually not much forward progress in this episode. There's a little bit. But I think when you look at it like that, yeah, I give it the thumbs up. I mean, it feels good. There's a lot of fan service in it, right? But the idea at the end of the day is that you wanted to leave this series feeling something. And again, to jump to the end, when Ted looks at the camera at the end, I got chills watching it again. I was actually really surprised because the message is clear. And last thing I'll say, Nick, too, is that, if you were watching this as a sports show, you probably left the show a little disappointed. But this never was a sports show. And I think if you watched it as for what it was, it could not have ended better.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good segue. And I think you nailed it. I think from the standpoint of, considering it as an epilogue, I think is brilliant, right? Because it did so many things. There was nothing moving forward. You shouldn't have anything moving forward. There's a ton of callbacks in this episode that people wanted. And I do think that it was a little bit messy. There were some things that you're like, I wish they wouldn't have done that. I wish they would have had a conclusion with, Keely and Roy and Jamie, or Dr. Jacob. I never liked that character. I mean, what's really going on with that? But,
right.
Even in the episode, they talk about the fact that perfect is boring, right? That was one of the conversations with the Diamond Dogs. And it wasn't perfect. It's messiness. But the whole show was about how to overcome messiness, which I think is pretty cool. Yeah. But you mentioned something about being a sports show. And I loved the fact that they did not win the Premier League title, right? And I think winning does matter, but meaning matters more, right? Everything, the central message of the show was about development and teamwork and trust and vulnerability. And the fact that they didn't end it and that it didn't culminate with winning the whole effing thing, which was a callback from a previous episode in the series, I think was really important for them. And I think it hammers home the point of what the show is all about. It's not about the wins and losses. It's about, helping these players become the best versions of themselves.
I was just going to say that is the key. If there was one key to the whole series, and it will continue to be the key as the show continues, it's helping these athletes become a better version of themselves. Now, just to comment on that is exactly my goal when I coach not TV athletes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like real life athletes.
Real life athletes. Like when you're able to put the ego aside, and that's something that Ted did so beautifully in this show, and realize you're really coaching a person. And the show touches on that with a lot of different characters, right? Mm-hmm. That is really the key to coaching. And that is one of the things from a sports standpoint, the show got so right. I also love, Nick, to your point, there's a scene where they're debating English football and European football with the championship and Champions League, the Premier League. I can tell you from living there, when I landed in England for my first year, didn't understand that at all. By the time I left, I kind of understood it. European sports is very different than American sports. So I thought that they sprinkled that in there to kind of remind people that, not everybody wins. Also, here's the thing. We talked about the Disneyfication of this. Them winning would have been Disneyfication.
For sure.
Like, it's very hard to win. Also, I can't imagine the actual Premier League was going to be okay with not a Premier League team winning the Premier League, right? These are choices they have to make. But as you said, the show is never about the win. The win was the people becoming better versions of themselves. Everyone evolved. And again, this last episode, you can go through any character you want. Their arc ends with they are moving forward. You mentioned, the choice of Roy and with Keeley, right, with Jamie. That was Keeley's arc finishing. I don't have to choose, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that they used the characters brilliantly with that.
Her personality, her what do I want to say? Her importance, how she sees herself, is not based on who she is with, but is based on her own self-worth. Yeah.
Right. And again, you can go through any character you want. I actually have notes on all of them. Like you can see the end result and kind of what their life is like now. I will say too, you said some criticisms. The only two criticisms I have of this episode is I really didn't love where Nate ended up. I thought that was a little weak, right? He goes through obviously a massive transformation, only to kind of go back to being a bit of the whipping boy. And the thing is that like I understood what they were trying to do there of like he's able to accept that. I thought his character should have moved forward a little bit more than that. And then the psychologist, I just felt like they kind of pushed her aside, like, oh yeah, they had a team psychologist. Okay, we'll move past that now.
And I noticed this time, at the end that Dr. Sharon, that Roy was in Dr. Sharon's office, right? So she's coming back. But that was one of the things that Nick and I have talked about that is very Disneyfied. Mm-hmm. Sports psychologists do not cure a problem in a single episode or session, for sure.
No, it takes years. And I think the big point of that scene was just that Roy's able to ask for help,
he's
right?
going to do his work.
Right. So everyone's left in a nice place. Like I said, they didn't know they were going to have a sequel. I'm sure they thought about it when they wrote. They left some open-ended things for sure.
Was there a particular character that you said you took notes on all of them, like from start to end? Was there one that you said, yes, I love where they took this particular character arc much more so than others? Or, I mean, that's so hard to choose. I didn't even know if I could choose that.
Yeah, look, I can tell you the best ones. Like I think Jamie was just really perfectly done. Talk about the callbacks. The first episode is that icon hat, and at the end he has the icog. And for those of you wondering, that's the cog in the wheel. I don't know, what does that mean? It means he is a cog in the wheel now. He's not the icon. But I've coached athletes like that start out a bit, narcissistic and all about themselves, and then they figure out how to be part of the team. I thought that was pretty brilliantly done. Ted's arc is really good, although subtle, right? About he has issues. Like that was one of the magical parts of really season one, leading into this, is that he's not perfect, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that he's very optimistic and he's all about team building, and he doesn't sacrifice his laurels for anything, but he has problems with his wife. He has problems with his mother, and that the guts to dive into that, to me, is a real hidden side of honestly sports and life that not enough people do. That he has his positivity, but he has his problems. I really enjoyed that too. Rebecca's arc is so wonderful for so many reasons. Like obviously from a woman of power point of view, right? But also women's empowerment, right? Of why her motivations change from trying to get it back at Rupert to the end, not even caring about Rupert, right? And Rupert being the ultimate narcissist. And one of my favorite lines from this episode was when Higgins said he didn't need any help from you to ruin his own life. And that is so true of narcissists, right? And I find that people that are battling a narcissist, a lot of times they want to get back, they want to find a way. And I always tell them, they don't need your help. They don't. They will find their way into hell on their own. And then, Rupert's arc is, although dark, I enjoyed that he literally ends up walking into the darkness because he can't change. He's the only character in the show that cannot change. And the actor did such a wonderful job with that. I mean, you really hate this guy in the show.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I feel bad for him as the human, because he walks around places and people want to call him the same name they shouted at him at the stadium because he
Yeah.
played it well.
Right. It's true for him and who I can't remember her name. Whoever played the headmaster in one of those Harry Potter movies. I remember.
Yes.
Yeah. Forgive me, Harry Potter fans, for not remembering the name right now. But I remember hating her for a while. But then she came back and played Queen Elizabeth, and now everybody loves her again. But he's the only one who didn't change, and that's the point, right? Is that the narcissist cannot change. They cannot live outside their own little world. But I think, too, Nick, again, it's a long answer to a short question. The arc that I loved the most is the team, right? Is that the team started not believing and then they believe. Again, pun intended on this. I'm actually not saying that on purpose. And even when the belief was shattered, literally, they find a way forward. That is so real. Look, I've been so blessed to win a lot of championships with the team I work with. Based on this team building philosophy, which at this point in my career, I've been coaching 20 years. I'm very confident that this works, right? Yeah. By the way, when I say works, I don't necessarily mean the championships, right? The teams I'm with tend to win, but the people grow. And like, that's the magic of the show. That's the arc that I love the most. And I hope people left this show with, I want to be better, right? That's the way. If you left the show going, they didn't win the Premier League, I mean, you missed the show.
Oh, you missed it. Yeah.
All right. And I know people said that. I can't believe they didn't let them win. I'm like, guys, don't miss the point.
I literally just got goosebumps because I think when you reflected on the show, I mean, they did such a good job showing the camaraderie and the building in those last 2 episodes specifically. We saw all the trials and tribulations that they went through, but the harmony that they showed that team had as an outcome of all the work that everybody did, really, I thought, for those of us that have been in a locker room and have actually had a chance to experience it, there's no other feeling like it. No. The magical, the camaraderie, the brotherhood, the sisterhood, whatever it is. And I think they did a really, really good job representing that. And wrapping it up kind of with the kangaroo court that Isaac was presiding over at the end, and just how much fun and everybody was having, I thought was awesome.
Yeah. And look, I'm going to add, and look, you guys know this with the book you wrote, right? That magic is not limited to sports, right? I so hope people understand that, look, anytime, this is really what drives me in my work. Anytime a group of people can come together towards a common goal and accomplish that goal, it's magical. It's miraculous. Yep. And we need to strive for that more generally. And yes, I know there are forces pulling people apart and there's people against other people. For the most part, gang, in my day-to-day life, and I am in all different walks of life, just so everybody knows that, most people are willing to work together if you present it correctly. Right. Yeah. You have good leadership. We'll talk about that. You have good morals. You have good values and standards, and you have a common goal. Most people are willing to buy into that, no matter what their situation is. Right. And what I find is that, and this is what the show did beautifully, is when you get enough people believing in that, the a-holes will not survive. They will be pushed aside. They will. Yeah. It's an adapt or die situation. And I've seen that in my own work, right? There are athletes who just cannot get past themselves. They won't survive in the system that we present. True in the office, true at the house, true in the sports. So that is just such the message of this show. I hope people really get that.
That is the Lasso way, right? Which
right, Richmond way.
About.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Lasso way.
The Richmond way, yes. Right. Yeah, I love that Ted said that, and that Beard had so many sticky notes in there about.
Right. Yeah, that's him though. There's another character like Beard's ability to let go and say, "This is what I want." Right? He had a life bond to Ted, and he was able to move on. So everyone at some point in this show, showed what they can do with their newfound freedom or their belief, so forth and so on.
So, how much do you think, Lee, that the writers of the show, if at all, were trying to convey the message, that the whole notion of letting go is also okay, right? Ted really chooses to let go of the team, to go home to his son. Rebecca's sharing ownership. She's letting go of ownership of the entire franchise. And really demonstrating that, okay, there's a trust here, a trust that this was built to endure and to last. Is that something that you consciously think about as a leader of teams, that, okay, this can survive if I let go and kind of continue to thrive?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, Nick. I think that from a writing standpoint, this is where the mental health, mental fitness side of the show stood out, right? That is actually the theme of the show, right? Keeping in mind that a lot of this came out during COVID when that was a major issue. I think that when I look at it, the message was that you can let go of the weight you don't need to carry. I saw a great speaker one time he actually had weights, and he would give them to the audience and say, this is stress, this is that. And he goes, now let it go, and how much freer it is to walk without it. And I do think that was one of the messages of, do not hold on to all of these past traumas or ego, right? Each character brought a different type of stress. It's okay to let go of it and move on. Again, Rupert being the only one who could not do that in the show. I will say this to you though, because again, this is where the writers' room and me maybe disagree. If I was a Premier League manager and Rebecca offered me that amount of money and my family to move there, I would have taken that job. All right? I would not have said no, but they had to say no for Ted at that point in the show. But yeah, look, it's such a tough thing to do, to let go. And when you look at your own ego, and this is a journey all of us should be on, right? Of listening to your internal thoughts and understanding what's holding you back, connecting to that, and then having another voice that says, hey, listen, it's okay. Like, you can let go of this.
Yeah,
man, it'll change your life. It will really change your life. And again, we all have ego, including myself. It is a daily battle. I always tell young coaches, I've been in some pretty big coaching environments with high stakes, lots of fans, broadcasts. And I don't lie to people. Yeah, every once in a while, there's a thought that crawls in my head of, you don't belong here. What are you doing here? And I've had to train myself to kind of, acknowledge that thought and move it aside, right?
Yeah.
But I'm a human being, right? And it's okay to talk about that. Like, I think we've moved past the point where that was viewed as weakness, right? And it's like, no, I acknowledge that I have those thoughts too, amongst other things, right? It's not just in sports. But I'm very aware of those thoughts, and I'm in touch with those thoughts. And to your point, willing to kind of, I don't know if let go is the word, but okay, like, I'm going to move on from this right now. I don't need this thought in my head right now.
Yep.
The question is, are you aware of those thoughts? Do you have the consciousness to be aware? And I think that's what they were diving into.
Brilliantly, for sure. It does remind me of Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. Mm-hmm. That the level 4 leaders are the ones that kind of stick with the ego. They're usually successful, but the overwhelmingly successful is the ones that create, true legacy teams are the ones that reach great. And that is because they have the humility to let go, and it lives beyond them, right? So that's how you get the...
Yeah, well, look, just tapping on that, Marnie, too, like, how do you define success? Because the level 4 leader, who you are successful, don't get me wrong, but your definition of success is based on numbers and sales and, some trophy or outcome. Whereas those are all great things. And I'm not going to tell you, of course I want to win. Like, again, you have to separate these things a little bit. Of course I want to win. Of course I want to. Everything I do to prepare is to win. And I hate to lose. But that's not the full definition of success. My ultimate definition of success, and I mean this in life, is that my wife and kids go to bed knowing I love them and me knowing they love me. And if that happens every day, no matter what my life is doing, really, no matter what, I've won the day. It doesn't mean the days are easy every day, but that's my goal. And when it comes to sports, I'm going to echo the show again. Am I helping these athletes become the best versions of themselves, right? And when I have conversations with my own athletes, again, you just mentioned we just won a championship. It's not about the gold medal. It's about what my captain told me recently. There was this really stressful moment. She had a penalty shot, really stressful. And she said she was able to overcome the fear in the moment and just do what she needed to do. And I talked to her about, you're evolving as a leader, right? You have evolved as an athlete. That's the win, right? And don't get me wrong, it would have sucked if we lost that game, but like, wow, like, there's growth there, right? We can work with that. So yeah, it's an amazing point you just made.
One of my favorite scenes of entire series was in this episode when Roy finally asks to become part of the Diamond Dogs.
Woof.
We've been waiting for that for so long, but they had a really interesting question because Roy was really struggling, right? You know, he's like, I haven't changed, right? And they get into this conversation where I believe Trent says something to the effect of, you know, none of us change. We learn to accept who we've always been. Right. And then Nate comes in and says something to the effect of, I do believe people change, you know, for better or worse. And then Higgins does what Higgins does, right? And he provides the wisdom. But I'm wondering, from both of you guys, I mean, was Trent right in the fact that none of us change and we've just learned to really accept who we are? Or was Nate more right, or are they both right in terms of, you know, people do change? What do you guys think about that?
I have seen someone, and Nick, you know her, who absolutely has changed. Actually, I can think of two of them. You know both of them. They did the work. So they have done the work, which I think is critical to it, and have acknowledged where, I mean, they still have, their character has just shown up differently. They've taken their traits that were weaknesses before and learned how to turn them into strengths. Everything is on a spectrum, right? And any strength gone too far turns into a weakness. And I think what they have done is learn to slide the needle. So you haven't changed in the fact that this is still one of your personality traits, but how you have managed to dial it to be a power for good instead of evil, I think is how folks change. Lee, what's your take on that?
No, it's phenomenal. You know, the interesting part of that scene, and Nick, to your point, Roy was actually the only character whose arc wasn't finished as we came into this episode. Everybody else was reactive to their arc finishing. This was his final end of the arc. And what's wonderful about that conversation is they're all correct, right? The thing about mental health, mental fitness, is that it's just like physical fitness. Like you go to the gym to work your body out, but not everybody does the same workout. So when it comes to your mind, you choose whatever definition there you want that's going to help you. The key thing, though, to me in that scene, that was the big scene of that episode, in my opinion, was what Higgins says. And everybody says that. Just be moving towards better. Yeah. That's the common thread of that scene. Of whether you think people don't change or they do change, just every day be moving towards being better. That's something everyone can do. And the idea is that not every day is going to be perfect. You know, if you have the 2 steps forward, 1 step back, it's okay. But people, give yourself some grace and be moving towards getting better. I'll say it again. Rupert does not do that. He's a character, but we all know someone like Rupert.
Yeah, and he's not trying to do the work, right? Roy's trying to do the work. That's why Rupert's not going anywhere.
Well, and again, even in that episode, they give from a writing standpoint, Rupert moments of grace, but at the end of the show, he cannot help himself. His narcissist comes out and destroys everything that he loves. And I think that is a warning to people. It's you move towards being better, or you will move not towards being better on that path. And, you know, the thing is, one of the things they did so well, and I know we're running on time here, but one of the things they did so well with Rupert was that the character reactions to Rupert outside Rebecca's friend.
Sassy.
You know, she's rooting for it, right? You know, she's a bit of a narcissist too, right? She's just a loyal best friend, but no one's really happy with his behavior. You know, like I remember watching that episode, you almost want to feel bad for Rupert. You know, I'm not saying you should, but Rebecca, Ted, it's just, what are you doing? Like, it's not like, you're a bad guy. I'm glad you got yours. You shouldn't be rooting for someone to fail, even at that level. It's sad. The team that he grew up loving now hates him. That's sad. Yeah. Right.
That is sad.
And they give him the grace of that. And again, the response to that is not rooting against him. That's exactly what you don't want to do. It's just, man, that guy can't move forward. That's unfortunate. But on the brighter note, are you moving towards better? And I think that's just a great line from Higgins of there is no right definition here. It's live your life, just try and be better every day. And I know athletes who just try and be 1% better every day. I know people that do that. And then I'll just kind of say this like a little bit in closing is that to me, the wonder of living is that you can get better a little bit every day. That exploration of yourself and the world, the good, the bad. I know I'm a very positive sounding person, but I'm also a realist. Like there's a lot of bad out there too. How exciting that you get to explore this world. right. It's fascinating. Fascinating is not always a positive word, right? It's fascinating that things happen every day. That exploration to me is the gift, right? And I don't want to waste that gift because we don't know what happens after this, just like we don't know what's going to happen next season. And to me, that's the key of just try and be a little bit better every day. Be a goldfish. No, I'm just kidding. Just try and be a little bit better every day.
So when you said we don't know what's going to happen next season, well, clearly the women are going to win their gold medal. Like that's what you've done. So
right. No, it is going to be very interesting to see the parallels. And I'll say this too, that I'm so happy they're diving into women's sport, especially now, right? Like women's sports are starting to thrive, which is beyond overdue. But Marnie, you could probably speak to this more than us having been an athlete. But I always say every woman I coach is a trailblazer. The women I coach are doing things for the first time that people have never seen, right? Everything I've done or seen in sport, from my point of view, I've seen it already. And I really hope that they dive into that perspective, which is not a story that I can tell, right? That's only a story that the women can tell. And I think it's an important story to show people what women go through. Again, the trailblazing aspect of it. Like, again, the women I coach, never have the women won a gold medal in IIHF event. My daughter's watching that game. Now she's seen it for the first time ever. Like, I try and give people that perspective. There's now a new goal in her mind because she saw something she's never seen before. That's where I kind of hope they go with this show here is that it doesn't need to be about Ted the whole time, right? Let's explore that.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I absolutely think they will go that direction. I don't think it'll be as much about Ted, but I think as we I can't wait to start talking about it. Right? I mean, we have so much more to talk about with you, Lee, and I hope you join us again. I'm curious. Do you think they'll bring Rupert back for season 4, or do you think he's done?
If it'll be a cameo if they do.
A newspaper on a stand where we see updates.
Right. Like, look, the best thing that they can do is, maybe bring back the core characters, but really move on from the last series because it's done. Like there's not much direction for these characters to go. Yeah. Right. And I think that when great shows fail, it's when they force storylines that they don't need to force. I will say this. I was absolutely fine if this show never came back. I was very content with that. I'm not saying I don't want it to come back, but the stakes are very high. Just talking from the television, stakes are very high.
This is a risk for them. This is scary for them.
Like, I don't know if you can match that show. So Nick, to your question, don't try and match that show. Do a different show. Do a different topic. And I think we just presented that, right? Yeah. So no, I don't think we'll see Rupert. I think we'll see Rebecca and Keeley. Ted obviously plays a role. Beard is there. You'd be crazy not to have Roy and the men's team in it every once in a while, but they're support characters now, right? It's going to be a new motley crew of athletes storming into women's sports. You're going to hear about how that's underserved because it still is in England, right? Yeah. That's the story I'm excited to hear or write as I'm writing it. Right.
I love it.
So yeah, I'm excited. I'm absolutely excited. And I hope that they don't try and reinvent the wheel. Tell me another story. Tell me something that's fun and keep it about obviously the mental side of things and how to be a better person, be better every day.
Excellent. And that is what you aim to help folks with team building. We met on Instagram because we saw your clips and your team building and positivity. I believe in you and you should too, right? Yep. I love your tagline.
That's my catchphrase.
So can you tell folks how to get in touch with you and who you like to work with if they're listening and think like, I want this guy on my team.
Yeah, well, first off, Marnie, I'm happy to have a whole new crop of clips to be sharing. That's kind of how I got big, was that I'd share a Lasso clip and then give my thoughts as a team builder about it. Yeah. That's where I got the following. So if you want to follow me, Instagram is the number one place, but at Lee MJ Elias is where you can find me. And my website is game7group.com, all spelled out. And look, I love working with any group, athletes, work environments, anyone who wants to come together to accomplish a common goal and is having a hard time doing that. One of the things that coaches say to me, and a lot of the managers out there listening will understand this, is that I know I need to build a team bond, but I don't know how to do it. That's what I do, right? And I love doing it. And very humbled to do it. But if you're looking to create a team bond for your group or have someone come speak about that's what I do. right? And you know, I always say I'm a husband and a father first. But aside from being the podcaster and the coach and all the other things I do, that is my life's work, is to help people come together to accomplish a common goal and be better versions of themselves.
Awesome.
That is awesome, Lee. And we cannot thank you enough. I mean, you're the perfect guest to close out our series. And I hope you will accept our invitation as we continue having discussions as we lead up to season 4. And it's just been awesome. So thanks so much for joining us.
There's only one thing left to say. So long, farewell.
Well, Peter, say goodnight. Oh, that was the best scene. That so many tears for sure.
I love that. No, I love that they did that. And again, that's the what's the right word? That was the Disneyfication of that episode.
Yep, no doubt. Awesome. Well, we're going to close out this episode and this Ted Lasso rewatch. You know, we're reminded that the best leadership stories don't end with trophies. We're reminded with this episode. They end with people who are better because of the journey. Thanks to everybody for believing. Thanks for listening. And always remember, be curious, not judgmental. And thanks for showing our book, Lee. We appreciate that.